Not a great look if you're Donald Trump. Amid the new development that the former president is expected to be indicted in the Manhattan District Attorney's case regarding Trump's hush money payouts to Stormy Daniels, he released a statement saying, quote, "I did absolutely nothing wrong. I never had an affair with Stormy Daniels, nor would I have ever wanted to have an affair with Stormy Daniels. This is a political witch hunt trying to take down the leading candidate by far in the Republican Party, while at the same time also leading all of the Democrats in the polls, including Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Congress and numerous Democrat district attorneys, attorneys general, and the Department of Injustice itself, which has unprecedentedly placed the top DOJ prosecutors in the Manhattan District Attorney's office in order to get Trump, have found that I did nothing wrong." Now, they fall back on this old and rebuked case which has been rejected by every prosecutor's office that has looked at this Stormy Horseface Daniels matter, where I relied on counsel in order to resolve this extortion of me, which took place a long time ago. Since then, I have won lawsuits for hundreds of thousands of dollars against Stormy Daniels, and every prosecutor's office which has looked at it, which are numerous, including the FEC, have turned this fake case down. This is not a state case, it is a federal case, and they have all passed on it. Even the previous Manhattan DA, Cyrus Vance, did not bring charges because I am guilty of nothing except for the fact that I am beating all Republicans and Democrats badly in the presidential race. It is Russia, 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 Ukraine, 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 the no collusion Mueller hoax, and other targeted false attacks against me all over again. It is a weaponization of our judicial system, and I am shocked that this Soros-backed radical left prosecutor, who has allowed violent crime to reach new heights in New York without any retribution, would consider bringing such a charge against the undisputed frontrunner of one of the two major political parties in our nation. And of course, Trump goes on in this interminable rant, but you get the picture. But this is all the proof you need that Trump is feeling the heat from the newest revelations that the Manhattan DA's office will most likely be indicting Trump, given the fact that prosecutors there have offered Trump the chance to testify before the grand jury next week, a move that almost always signals that an indictment is forthcoming. In fact, when the target of an investigation is given the chance to testify, that's generally the final step that prosecutors take in an investigation and the final step before prosecutors ask a grand jury to vote on the proposed charges. I spoke with former federal prosecutor Glenn Kirshner in our YouTube series, The Legal Breakdown, and asked us specifically how often prosecutors give defendants, like Donald Trump, the chance to testify if they are not considering indictment, and his answer is pretty revealing.
So, 99 times out of 100, Brian, what we just learned about Donald Trump being invited to appear before the grand jury would signal that he is absolutely going to be indicted. But let's face it, I think we want to brace ourselves because we've been disappointed before. Our justice hopes have been dashed before, particularly when it comes to Alvin Bragg. But, this is a really concrete indication that the next stop should be an indictment for Donald Trump.
Okay, now how often does a district attorney offer a defendant the chance to testify without ultimately seeking charges?
Almost never, because once you're in a position to invite a defendant to appear before the grand jury, obviously you go through the defendant's attorneys, his defense team, and you extend that invitation, it is a sign that you feel like the evidence is there. The evidence is all in. You wait until the very end because in the unlikely event the defendant takes you up on the offer and actually goes into the grand jury and testifies and tries to talk his way out of the charges, you want to make sure you have every investigative fact and detail already kind of in hand so you can really go at the defendant when he's testifying and probably trying to exonerate himself. So ultimately, if Alvin Bragg and his team of prosecutors have progressed to this point, it is a very strong indication that the next stop is an indictment.
And so with an indictment looming, it is of course no surprise that Trump would react how Trump always reacts when his back is against the wall, which is to just melt down in public, cry foul, and pretend that he's the real victim in all of this. Although after the umpteenth time, that whole shtick kind of loses its flair. Now, just a few notes on Trump's post here where he desperately tries to defend himself. First of all, and sorry to bury the lead here, but we already know that Trump's lying in this post because he already admitted that he had an affair with Stormy Daniels. Back in January, only a few weeks ago, he posted, quote, "With respect to the Stormy nonsense, it is very old and happened a long time ago, long past the very publicly known and accepted deadline of the statute of limitations. It was very old and happened a long time ago is quite different from Trump's new story that he, quote, never had an affair with Stormy Daniels." So in effect, all that Trump accomplished here is to prove that he is incapable of telling the truth and that his little Truth Social posts are just complete and total bullshit, undermined by his previous post that he's too stupid to remember admitting to. Beyond that, I always find it so telling when he tries to claim that this situation is a hoax, just like other investigations into him were hoaxes, and he brings up the Russia investigation, and his goal here is to try and say, well, we all know that that was bogus, and so in the same way, this one is bogus too. But his logic hits one small roadblock in that while Donald Trump pretends that the Russia investigation was a witch hunt, remember, that investigation resulted in 34 indictments, including George Papadopoulos, Paul Manafort, Rick Gates, Mike Flynn, and Michael Cohen, all of whom themselves pleaded guilty. Consider too, based on the Russia investigation, we know about a number of instances of cooperation between the Trump campaign and Russia, like how Paul Manafort shared polling data with the Russians, how Mike Flynn told the Russians that Trump was going to lift sanctions that were put in place over the cyber attack on the US election, like how Donald Trump himself even went on national television and asked the Russians to hack Hillary Clinton's emails, which they then attempted to do that very day. So if the goal here is to say that this impending indictment is a hoax just like all the other probes were hoaxes, you might want to avoid mentioning investigations where your own associates literally pleaded guilty. Also, Trump mentions the fact that this isn't a state case, it was a federal case. And he's right in the sense that this case was originally at the Southern District of New York, which is an arm of the Department of Justice. But we also know that while Michael Cohen was prosecuted by SDNY for his involvement in a case where he was quite literally directed by Trump to commit a campaign finance violation, that Trump himself wasn't prosecuted. And that's very likely owed to the fact that it was Donald Trump's own DOJ, led by Donald Trump's own henchman, Bill Barr, that was overseeing this case. So if you're surprised that Bill Barr's DOJ didn't prosecute the president, then Trump, then come see me because I've got some magic beans to sell you. And let's not pretend that this decision didn't have unintended consequences at the state level. When Cy Vance was overseeing the Manhattan DA case and watched the entire federal government fail to prosecute this case, for what I argued previously were political reasons, that doesn't exactly instill a whole lot of confidence for prosecuting the same case at the state level. Of course, now that Bill Barr isn't running cover for Trump at the DOJ, and with the DA there who's clearly more willing to prosecute Trump in Manhattan than his predecessor, Trump may not have the luck that he'd relied on previously to save his ass. That he may be indicted now doesn't mean that this is some newfound illegitimate effort to do so, it just means that Trump's lackeys aren't able to protect him like before. But of course that won't stop Trump from pretending that him not being prosecuted by his own corrupt DOJ was somehow proof of his innocence, because he will grasp at whatever straws are within reach. Trump doesn't care about the truth, he cares about creating public pressure campaigns to try and snake his way out of accountability. And to his credit, that has worked throughout the entirety of his life. But with impending indictments in Manhattan, in Fulton County, Georgia, and possibly at the Department of Justice, it looks like Donald Trump's dumb luck may finally be running out. And the best part of that is that he's clearly well aware. Before you go, a quick announcement. I've started a Spanish YouTube channel. Democrats desperately need to be able to appeal to Spanish-speaking audiences, so this is me doing my part. To help that channel get going in the algorithm so that we can finally start spreading our progressive message and breaking the conservative stranglehold on Spanish-speaking media, please subscribe and watch a few videos. The link to that channel, called Brian Tyler Cohen Espanol, is right here on this screen. And of course, to see more of my content in English, make sure to subscribe to this channel as well. The link is also right here on this screen. Thanks so much for watching.